if I'm talking to you about investments in stocks more than I usually have, I want you to know what Berkshire's actually doing now. You'll see in the month of April that we net sold $6 billion or so of securities, and that's basically, that isn't because we thought the stock market was going to go down or anything of the sort, or because somebody changes their target price or they change this year's earnings forecast. I just decided that I'd made a mistake in evaluating. It was an understandable mistake. It was a probability weighted decision when we bought that we were getting an attractive amount for our money when investing across the airlines business. So we bought roughly 10% of the 4 largest airlines, and we probably, this is not 100% of what we did in April, but we probably paid $7 or $8 billion, somewhere between $7 and $8 billion, to own 10% of the 4 large companies in the airline business, and we felt for that we were getting $1 billion roughly of earnings. Now, we weren't getting $1 billion of dividends, but we felt our share of the underlying earnings was $1 billion, and we felt that that number was more likely to go up than down over a period of time. It would be cyclical, obviously, but it was as if we bought the whole company, but we bought it through the New York Stock Exchange, and we could only effectively buy 10% roughly of the 4, and we treated mentally exactly as if we were buying a business, and it turned out I was wrong about that business because of something that was not in any way the fault of 4 excellent CEOs. I mean, believe me, no joy being a CEO of an airline, but the companies we bought were well managed. They did a lot of things right. It's a very, very, very difficult business because you're dealing with millions of people every day, and if something goes wrong for 1% of them, they are very unhappy. So I don't envy anybody the job of being CEO of an airline, but I particularly don't enjoy them being in a period like this where essentially nobody, and people have been told basically not to fly. I've been told not to fly for a while. I'm looking forward to flying. I may not fly commercial, but that's another question. But the airline business, and I may be wrong, and I hope I'm wrong, but I think it changed in a very major way, and it's obviously changed in the fact that 4 companies are each going to borrow, perhaps an average of at least 10 or 12 billion each. Well, you have to pay that back out of earnings over some period of time. I mean, you're 10 or 12 billion dollars worse off if that happens. And of course, in some cases, they're having to sell stock or sell the right to buy a stock at these prices, and that takes away from the upside down. And I don't know whether 2 or 3 years from now that as many people will fly as many passenger miles as they did last year. They may and they may not. But the future is much less clear to me about how the business will turn out through absolutely no fault of the airlines themselves. But something that was a low probability event happened, and it happened to hurt particularly, whether it's the travel business, the hotel business, the cruise business, the theme park business, but the airline business in particular. And of course, the airline business has the problem that if the business comes back 70% or 80%, the aircraft don't disappear. So you've got too many planes, and it didn't look that way when the orders were placed a few months ago, or when arrangements were made. But the world changed for airlines, and wish them well, but it's one of the businesses we have. We have businesses we own directly that are going to be hurt significantly. The virus will cost Berkshire money. It doesn't cost money because our stock and various other businesses moves around. I mean, if XYZ, which is, say, is one of our holdings, and we own it as a business and we like the business, the stock goes down 20 or 30 or 40%. We don't feel we're poorer in that situation. We felt we were poorer in terms of what actually happened to those airline businesses, just as if we'd owned 100% of them. So that explains those sales, which are relatively minor, but I want to make sure that nobody thinks that involves a market prediction.
This is a question that comes from William Lewis. He said, please, did I understand correctly, Mr. Buffett, to say that Berkshire Hathaway sold its interests in 4 different airlines? And if so, can you name them? Can the names of those airlines be identified?
Yeah, I wouldn't normally talk about it, but I think it requires an explanation, and it requires an explanation that means we were not disappointed at all in the businesses they were being run and the management, but we did come to a different opinion on it. And they're the 4 largest U.S. airlines. It's American Airlines and Delta Airlines and Southwest Airlines and United Continental. And I think collectively they probably are at least 80% of the revenue passenger miles that is flown in the United States, and they have significant international flying too, excluding Southwest. So we like those airlines. But we don't. I like the world has changed for the airlines, and I don't know how it's changed, and I hope it corrects itself in a reasonably prompt way. I don't know whether the Americans have now changed their habits or will change their habits because of an extended period, if it happens that we're semi-shut down in the economy. I don't know whether the trends toward what people have been doing by phone. I mean, it's been 7 weeks since I've had a haircut. It's been 7 weeks more than 7 weeks since I put on a tie or anything. I've been just a question of which sweatsuit I wear. So who knows how we come out of this, but I think that there's certain industries, and unfortunately I think that the airline industry, among others, that are really hurt by a forced, in fact, shut down by events that are far beyond their control. Greg, would you like to add anything to that?
Really nothing to add, Warren.
Okay. Well, we got another Charlie here.
I didn't intend to use that as a line, but you've covered it well.
Yeah, we would have bought other airlines too, incidentally, but those were the 4 big ones, and those are ones we could put some money into, and we put whatever it was, $7 or $8 billion into it, and we did not take out anything like $7 or $8 billion, and that was my mistake. But it's always a problem if there are things on the lower levels of probabilities that happen sometimes, and it happened to the airlines, and I'm the one who made the decision.
But Warren, just to clarify on his question, he asked, did you sell your whole stake in all 4 of those?
The answer is yes. Yeah, when we sell something, we sell something, very often it's going to be our entire stake. I mean, we don't trim positions or that's just not the way we approach it, any more than if we buy 100% of a business, we're going to sell it down to 90% or 80%. I mean, if we like a business, we're going to buy as much of it as we can and keep it as long as we can. But when we change our mind,
right, the next question.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. When you change your mind?
Well, when we change our mind, we don't take half measures or anything of the sort. So I was amazed at how, frankly, now we were selling them at far lower prices than we paid, but I was amazed at the volume. Their airlines always trade in large volume relatively, but we have sold the entire positions.